how we can write an algebraic expression. To do that, we're going to look at three things. We're going to look at important vocab, and it's more words to look for, which will help you figure out what your expression needs to look like. In other words, we're going to then write an algebraic expression from a description. And we're also going to look at terms. What is a term? How do we use them? Why are they important? How do we pick them out of an algebraic expression? Learning experiences there. We're actually going to do 2 you-dos today. So it'll be a little bit of a longer video. So let's talk about important words to look out for. If you see anything that says sum or plus or added or more than, you're going to be using an addition sign somewhere in your expression, inside of your sentence. If you see difference decreased by, less than subtracted from, this is obviously going to be subtraction. You see product times or each, this would be multiplication. Remember that multiplication might be an X, it might be a dot, it might actually be in parentheses, or if you have a coefficient and a variable, it might just be next to each other. That's still multiplication. Quotient, shared equally divided by, that's clearly going to be division. Then quantity is an interesting one. Quantity means that you've got something happening inside of some parentheses. So maybe, for example, you have the quantity of 2 plus 4. Your 2 plus 4 would be inside the quantity, and you might say that the quantity is being multiplied by 3. So you'd have the 3 on the outside here. That's kind of what quantity means. It's a very important word. It's something that you see all the time in math, but nobody really talks about what it means until you find out that you need to use it. So remember quantity. It's one of the ones that are kind of out there. So let's look at an example. In this word sentence, we have 12 3/4 less than the product of 7 and a number x. So first off, we know what our variable is going to be. It's going to be x. We also know that we have a product, which means we're going to be doing some multiplication. And we have less than, so we know we're going to have some subtraction. So first off, we know that this is going to be less than the product of 7 and a number x. So we should really start with that. So we're going to have 7 times x. Now you'll notice that, kind of like I said up here, we're just going to write it as 7x. It's still multiplication. This is still 7 times x. Mathematicians, as I've said before, are lazy. We don't want to write out more symbols than we need to. Next, we have the less than. So we know we're going to subtract this. And we have our 12 3/4. And just like that, we've used our important words to help us break down this word sentence so we can write it as an algebraic expression. What we can do with this is for another video, but this is what we need to know for now. Now it's time for a you-do. In this one, you have 6 times the quantity of a number, x plus 3. Think about what is the quantity, what are the other numbers that you need to think about, what are the variables, what are the specific words that we just looked at that'll help you write an algebraic expression for this. Ready? Go! Alright, so now that we've tried writing an expression ourselves, let's try talking about terms. Now, if you did your work over break, you should know what a term is. That's part of an expression separated by either a plus sign or a minus sign. But let's look at some examples of terms. In this first example, we have a plus sign here and a minus sign here. If we kind of make this into like a box sort of thing, and draw a line through our plus and minus signs, you'll see that we have 3 sections. That means that we have 3 terms. In this first example, we have 12r, we have r over 2, and we have 19. You could probably call that negative 19 if you wanted to as well. Depends on how you want to think about it. In our second example, we have no plus or minus signs, which means we only have a single term. It is just 3d. Nothing too bad. This last one's interesting because we've got a plus sign here, but it's inside the parentheses. This one, I'll tell you for free, has two terms. Once we talk about the distributive property, which will be in the 3.6 video, I think, we'll see why this is actually the same thing as this, which we then see definitely has two terms. But we'll get to that. For right now, just be aware, if you've got something that looks like this, it's going to have two terms, or however many terms are inside of your parentheses. Let's see if you actually understood what I was just talking about, or if you need to rewind it and watch that part again. In this you-do problem, you have Marth, who says that the expression ABC has three terms because it uses three different variables. Is Marth correct or incorrect? Why? You'll notice that this is a CER essentially, so maybe write it as a CER. So things to remember about this one. An expression So things to remember from this video. Expressions can be written out of a word problem. In the word problems that we looked at in this video, they're very, very simple. They're just literally telling you what the expression is going to be. In a more realistic situation, you'd have to look in more detail, and we might make a video on that at some point. Use a variable to represent an unknown number. We don't know what it's equal to, so we just use a variable, usually x, but you can use whatever variable you want. It doesn't really matter. And then finally, terms are separated by either a plus sign or a minus sign. That should tell you how many terms you have in your expression. The last thing to do in this video is, of course, your suggested practice problems. The first three problems, you're just writing an algebraic expression for each situation. It's like that first you do. The fourth problem is a more realistic situation. You've got a real-life situation where you might need to use a algebraic expression. Use the variable s to help you with that. Good luck.